Welcome to another episode of She Unleashed. She Unleashed is, of course, brought to you by Pumza Gyani. We are the podcast that brings you the best women across the world. We bring you women who are here to advise. They are choosing alternative careers. They are a success in their career paths. And we bring you their insight. We bring you their expertise. We bring you their advice to tell you how you also can be part of this. Today we have an amazing speaker, a phenomenal woman who is an absolute tree hugger. So Jacinda, I'll call you a tree hugger for now. She has chosen a career which is one of those that is different to us. Because we have been talking about being a doctor, about being a lawyer, about being a teacher, but she has had a love for nature. She has loved. She has always been aware and conscious about the earth and how we can heal the earth. She's an amazing speaker. You already hear about her. She's the head of government regulatory and compliance, and she is the ESC leader. She's going to tell us all about it. Jacinda, welcome on board, and it's such a pleasure to host you.
Thank you so much, Humze. I'm so excited to be here and privileged to be with you.
Jacinda, thank you once again, because you are not just someone who has been born in Africa. You actually were born in the US and you came into Africa. But you came into Africa with a different mindset. You came, you learned the culture, you understood Africa. Now you are an advocate for people to come and study in Africa, for people to come and invest in Africa. What has inspired all of this in you?
Thank you, Humze. I consider myself a diaspora connector. I want to connect the diaspora and to Africa, and I think that that is so important because, as we all know, we're called African American for a reason. That is our home. That is where we're from, and I think that so many of us have not been given the opportunity or not had the advantage of being able to come into Africa ourselves and see for ourselves what the opportunities here are. And I just think that I can be, a lighthouse to some people who may be curious about Africa, the business opportunities here, the educational opportunities here, the opportunities for personal growth and development. Those opportunities exist and are very, very, very wonderful. I came here almost 6 years ago now, and I've worked in corporate Africa as a company secretary, as an attorney, and in governance and regulatory now. And it is phenomenal. And I think that I want more people in the diaspora to know that these opportunities are available to them. And to bring their good heart and their good experience, but also be open to learn here, and learn what is being done here that has been successful for thousands and thousands of years to create such a beautiful culture. So I really, I think that's an important part of my journey.
You have a passion for the environment, for the social environment, as well as governance. Where is this love coming from? Has it been something that has always been there, or is it something now that is coming up because everyone is talking sustainability?
So always wanted to be a lawyer and always loved the environment and always had an affinity towards Africa. I guess that's how I somehow got lucky in marrying a Cameroonian person and being brought into this wonderful family. But I think that as a child, even, I was conscious that we needed to recycle and that we needed to do what was best for, I would use, recycle my papers and my notebooks. I would donate my clothes so that I wasn't wasting things. I thought that it was really important to just do little things as a child, that I could do to help protect the environment. Using reusable bottles, using reusable, containers, and not throwing away waste every day. Those little things I used to do, even just, as a grammar school student. I went to a phenomenal LaSalle Language Academy where people were just really open and worldly. And I think that those values really stuck with me. Socially consciousness, equality, inclusion, diversity, those were like key and fundamental for me since I was a little person. So this ESG, being environmental, social, and governance, gives me an opportunity to really combine the things that I'm most passionate about, which is social justice and the environment, with corporate, say us as big business have a responsibility. In fact, we have the biggest responsibility because we have the biggest impact, to clean up our act and to be socially responsible, to reduce the waste, to reduce the impact on the water, generate renewable energy, and use clean energy sources. Because if business does that, then the impact will be way bigger. And that's why I'm just really lucky, that I was chosen to be the community leader for this and really help expose African corporates
Mm-hmm.
to what they can do in this space.
Mm-hmm. So, because She Unleashed is a woman's program, how are you finding the ESG space when it comes to women? And how do we introduce more women into this space to understand what it's all about? Because you find that people get exposed to what they've seen, and this is the space that is still developing. How do we interest more women to enter the space of ESG?
So I think that's a phenomenal question, Funza. Women have a vital role to play because in the social component, there's a lot that has to do with community building. There's a lot that has to do with women on boards, women in the leadership room, women in the executive committees. And so not only can women leverage ESG as an opportunity to maybe advance their own career, because what you can say is, hey, we need to evolve our business socially. I see there's no women on our board. I'm presenting myself as a candidate because I think that will help our company be more diverse and more inclusive. We can take that leap, and say, hey, this will help our business grow. This will be a positive impact. In addition to that, I think that environmental issues are not necessarily something that we are more prone to get into, but a lot of women are into agriculture, into agricultural. A lot of women are aware of the deforestation and have commitments to, whether it be for-profit or not-for-profit companies that
Mhm.
have investments in the land and making sure that we maintain and monitor the land. So the ESG lens is maybe a new lens, but kind of on an old, on corporate responsibility, like you said, corporate social responsibility has been around. But the idea now is that it's more of an imperative, it's more of a
Mhm.
mandate. After the Paris Climate Conference, each country went home and said, this is our nationally determined contribution. Our country is going to do X, Y, and Z to try to get to net zero carbon emissions. And
Mhm.
so every country has some mandate to some level, every country in Africa, every country around the world. So I think women can really take advantage of knowing that these regulations are coming, whether we like it or not. It's no
Mhm.
longer optional. And we can position ourselves in our companies to say, hey, I'm going to come up with ideas that will be ESG forward and bring profit to the company. And that's going to help me develop my career. So whether
Mhm.
you're a lawyer in the lawyer space, whether you're in the compliance space, whether you're in the audit space, whether you're in the commercial business space, because if you're developing products, maybe you can develop a product that has more clean energy or has no petroleum inputs into it, or that has a reduced amount of paper, so that you're
Mhm.
reducing your impact on the forest. So whatever your vertical, there
Mhm.
are ways that you can embrace ESG to kind of leverage your own career at this
Mhm.
moment. I think it's a really, really important thing for us to take advantage of, because it's a huge market in a lot of countries. It's a huge
Mhm.
market.
Mhm. And I think the other angle we spoke about before coming online was the fact of there's also more and more funding that is going towards socially
Oh, yes.
responsible kind of organizations. What can you tell the women about the opportunities around funding, and what can they do better to position their small, medium enterprises for access to this funding?
Yeah, thanks, Hunza. So basically, right now, a lot of the international banks, especially those based in the US, are mandating that environmental, social, and governance metrics be uh, reported and that
Mhm.
they be documented. And not only that, but you're actually doing the good things. So
Mhm.
if you are not doing those things and reporting on them, then you won't receive funding at the same rates. You will get premiums. There's actual discounts being given to green companies. So it's not only that Like in the past, it was just if you were maybe a solar company, they might give you these benefits because you're actually producing a renewable energy source. But
Mm-hmm.
now they can say, okay, you're making water bottles, but you're making water bottles in a sustainable way. You're using
Mm-hmm.
as minimal inputs as you can. Your sustainability report shows that. So your financial institution, whether it's linked to a local or international finance, may say, okay, your financing is going to be at a lower rate because you are taking these things into account. And they monitor it. So these are opportunities for us to really get involved at the source of the reporting to say, hey, we're going to help you and your company monitor and report. That's what I'm doing, helping develop strategies and helping develop monitoring and reporting tools, because every industry is different, as we were
Mm-hmm.
discussing before.
Mm-hmm.
So what you would need to do in a small business that maybe produces clothing would be different than what you would need to do in a mega conglomerate that is, mining for gold. Everyone is going to need to have different steps. So whatever business you're in, the financial institutions and the governments are getting involved to say either you're going to benefit with a premium because you're doing this, or you may be hit with an environmental tax or penalty because you're not.
Mhm. So it looks like it is a field that is evolving and may have quite some significant incentives to be doing this in future. How would you advise women to actually leverage that we are all at a beginning part of this? Because sometimes, when something new is happening, it may still be, chaotic in as far as understanding where you go, because it's not developed as yet. What do you think is
Exactly.
then their best ammunition for leveraging this? Because you hear people talk about sustainable development, but once you listen to the essence of the conversation, you can gather that it's just a superficial kind of understanding of just the goals as they are.
So I like to look at it in kind of the way we looked at digital evolution. So when digital came initially, it was very, if you'd like to do it, it's a nice to have. It's on
Mhm.
top of what you're already doing. And it seemed like, oh, it may be costing more than it's actually benefiting initially. There was that cost benefit analysis on
Mhm.
digital. So you have the same thing that's coming in with ESG, the cost benefit analysis. People are looking at it and saying, what's it going to cost me to do more sustainable product production? What's going to be the benefit? And what they're realizing now is that actually you can have some significant cost reductions in doing ESG strategy right. You can have some significant, improvements in your bottom line by changing some of the inputs, by moderating things, and by improving. And we've always said that when women are, so for the social component, when women are involved in decision making and involved in the company, they say the profits increase. So at the end of the day, basically, we need to start from the perspective of how can I, in my company, um, input some ESG value.
Mhm.
Take it that first small step. What can I do in my company that would improve any of those metrics? For example, I was mentioning to you that sometimes we can do this and push it by tying it to executive compensation. So we
Mhm.
say, all of you executives in the committee, if you do something that improves our sustainability score, because these things are all, measured, then
Mhm.
that's going to lead to your bonus this year. Not only you increase profits, going to lead to a bonus, but if you increase our sustainability score, you're going
Mhm.
to get some bonus. So if we can think about it like that, about how we can incentivize our companies, incentivize our staff to do and think in a more sustainable way, then we can have more of a hands-on kind of small pieces that are being put together to create a sustainable picture. I'll give you the example of Nike. Nike basically came out with Colin Kaepernick and supported him in his social justice evolution. And they used commercials and things like that to show, we're with the community. But
Mhm.
what happened after that was people said, hey, but look at your board. You have no minorities on your board. Look at your executives. There's so few. You're giving money, but
Mhm.
are you actually giving them more meaningful
Mhm.
tools like long-term job security and
Mhm.
development? That's what a community needs to really grow and develop and thrive. So in that particular instance, the staff of Nike then has to take it on themselves to say, okay, what do we need to do to
Mm-hmm.
show our community? Because there are stakeholders, it's the
Mm-hmm.
community, your clients, your shareholders, and your supply chain are all your stakeholders. What can we do to show them that we're environmentally and socially conscious? Let's put more women on our board. Let's be more conscious about our resourcing. They've even started producing some materials synthetically to reduce the amount of natural resources that they're using. So they're marketing all of that. That helps them increase profits because people are
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, I want to support a sustainable
Yeah.
company. And then
Yeah.
also I want to support a socially just company.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the best thing women can take away from this is that ESG is an innovation that can help add value to their operation. And if they put themselves positioned properly in their company to be the ones who really lead and spearhead those innovations, then
Mm-hmm.
not only will they benefit from their company being better, but
Mm-hmm.
they'll can get their bonus and things tied to that
Yeah.
increased sustainability.
I guess the other question that I was going to ask was leaning to that as well, because since it's a newer area, it probably will have a bit of openness in as far as diverting into that pathing, purely because you will look for an ESG practitioner. You may not find them, but you may be more open to looking at someone who has done governance, who has done audit, who has done other factors
Exactly.
that may add value on how you will implement your own strategy internally. Tell me, Jacinda, what are the typical customers that you get? Is it normally the CEOs who have the consciousness to ESG? And I love that question because it's really stemming from the fact of the advocacy, that advocacy at some point, if companies are sleeping, they are the ones who push more for more progress around ESG. How are you finding the market? Are the CEO, C level becoming more open to sustainability?
So yeah, I think that, like you said, there is definitely a C-suite level and board level decision and discussion. I
Mm-hmm.
think that boards are really the strategic drivers in the organizations if their governance is correct, and
Yeah,
so
yeah.
they will be the ones to say, let's invest in this. Let's do the research into our product development to see how we can improve on these metrics. But
Mm-hmm.
also, I think that it goes all the way down to the front desk, the people who are helping clean. And because if they believe that we need to do things more sustainably,
Mm-hmm.
then they too can start to take that attitude in their tasks and in their activities of, let's make sure that when we're using water, we're not wasting water when we're cleaning the building. Let's make sure we're not using toxic chemicals that, pollute the ground when we're cleaning the building. It,
Mm-hmm.
it, it can go into so many different levels. So that's why I say it's kind of a mindset. Like when we go to
Mm-hmm.
law school, they tell us to think like a lawyer.
Okay.
I'm saying that ESG for women today, we should really start to think like a sustainable business person to say, if I had to do this sustainably, make
Mm-hmm.
the same business decisions, make the same financial investments, how would I do it sustainably?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that can be that differentiating factor for them in the business.
I loved where you were going with linking ESG to corporate incentives. What is the immediate reaction you get from executives once you introduce that?
You know, the big multinationals don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you're a multinational, you've got some type of tied in LinkedIn diversification with financial institutions or governments, and you've already committed whether you wanted to or not. So the conversations there are easy because they're just saying, okay, help us to get there. We know we have to go there.
Mm-hmm.
But the smaller businesses, the medium-sized businesses, the local businesses, it's gonna take more. I mean, at the end of the day, resources are limited and people really have to have an incentive to use those resources in a
Mm-hmm.
certain way, and that's why the idea of helping them to understand that they can increase their profits. This isn't a resource use that has no added value. It's
Mm-hmm.
not some good added value only. I think that's what we have to pass. It's not just some sentimental value that you get from doing this. You actually get a cash return. And so that's, trying to change that mindset to, oh, this is just a nice to have that, makes me look good, to, oh, I'm actually going to make more money and also have a better product and have longevity in my marketplace if I do these things. So yeah, the reception is definitely, multinationals are open to it because it's almost mandated at their level because of their international relationships.
Yeah.
And then local businesses are coming along as in the next 10 years, the Paris climate change is basically a 2030 target for a lot of the measures. So that's what I'm trying to let women know, like, this is a 10-year, a long-term kind of opportunity where if you get in now on the ground floor, you can be, there developing along with it. But if you wait until year 9, you're going to be scrambling and trying to figure out how to, meet these targets. So in a lot of African countries, like I said, they have laws in place right now. They're just not penalized for, things as much as in other areas, but it's coming. A lot of them are expanding their renewable energy networks, hydropower, solar power. So a lot of governments are investing and starting that way. So that even, for opportunity, people in the diaspora, people around Africa should be looking at that as an opportunity. Clean energy, whether it's putting it in their own business. So whether you have a business right now that you can transition into renewable over the next 5 or 10 years, or whether you're actually in the position to buy some solar panels and, invest in off-grid or on-grid energy projects, which are huge and are like coming like this in the marketplace. So that's where there can be also some opportunities.
I think you are starting to touch on my next question because I wanted to understand what is the scale of this opportunity, because we've spoken quite a lot about it cutting across different industries, because different contexts of ESGs will apply in different industry, but also we spoke about the global flavor, that the fact that the KPIs are the same for the different goals. So the world, maybe speak to me about the world that this will open for Pumza, who's sitting in East London and just slowly getting to understand this world of ESG.
So as we were talking earlier, and I said, as an angel investor, as an investor, your power is in saying, I will invest in companies that only have women on their boards. I will invest in companies that only have clean water strategies. I will invest in companies that have forest deforestation. They're putting trees, planting one tree for every tree they take out of the ground. So every person can have that personal responsibility to say, in my business, I'm going to focus on this by incentivizing it, by only, working with businesses that are aligned with my values. And I think we do that anyway. We do that generally. We only work with people who align with our core values. And I think that most of us have ESG as a core value, but we just haven't prioritized it because we're looking at profits. But we see that profits is definitely a key and important thing, but we also want to do it in a good way. And I think that that's why I'm feel lucky to be able to be in a space where I can say, oh, yes, I want to make money. I have kids, I have a family that I love and I prioritize and want them to be happy and healthy. But I can also do that in a good way, sustainable energy and helping promote those types of products in the market and helping people think so that it's not just me, or it's a trickle down effect. If you throw that stone and that vibration goes out into the ocean, if it's a good vibration, that's really what I want to help see, is help people to see that me as a school teacher, okay, I'm going to use chalkboards instead of paper. My kids are going to use reusable ways to write and learn. And I'm going to sustain the earth that way. Or I'm going to make sure that my kids have reusable lunch bags instead of paper lunch bags. And all of these things add up. If every school in the continent of Africa decided to not use paper textbooks and only use computers, how many trees would we save? How many environmental, points will we get? But that requires a strategy for making sure that every student has a computer.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
So those are the things that we as women can put ourselves in a position to say, hey, I'm going to propose this, and then I'm going to help roll out the implementation and get paid to do the implementation.
Absolutely, absolutely. Jacinda, it's been a very interesting conversation, and I think because it's a newer field, it will require us to unpack and unpack and unpack and unpack and look at it from different facets. But for today, I think what was important is for anyone who is maybe exploring changes, but also, we get to review where we are from a career perspective later in life. So for me, as an example, and maybe some are lucky they do it sooner. For me, at the time when I was studying, being a CA was one of these things that were so prominent at that point in time, and you followed that route, only to realize that this thing is not even so close to your values. You reflect, you review, and when it comes to these things and understanding that you can actually make a career out of caring for nature and out of caring for the world, there is actually something that you can follow as a career. And I really have all the love and support for what you're doing, to be an advocate in the space and to make sure that you share what you are learning, both on the side of ESG, but also the side of the diaspora, and inviting people back into Africa. Tell us, so what can I expect to see from Jacinda in the next 6 and 12 months and 18 months? And how do we help also the ladies that are wanting to get into the space? Can they get in touch with you and maybe ask, or they are in the space, but they're looking for support or help, or maybe the consulting kind of like work that you do as well?
Great. So that was a long question. So we think the next 12 to 18 months.
Uh,
Um, Honestly, I think that just growing in my practice to support more development in this space. Like you said, it's really, really huge right now, but it's going fast. So
mhm,
I actually was a professor at Northwestern Law School for critical race theory, which is also a
mhm,
big topic,
uh-huh,
social justice. So you can see I've
uh-huh,
always been about social justice. So more training, more teaching, more engaging with
mhm,
people so that they can understand how they can work in this space. I think that at the end of the day, connecting the diaspora was a little tough during COVID, just because the travel restrictions. But in the next year, I definitely hope that my alma mater, FAMU, will be able to send some students over here to Cameroon for internships so that they
mhm,
can experience the culture and society here, and then also possibly work with the schools here now that like I said, now that the borders are back open, to send some kids, over there and create those types of relationships, but really also push for us in the diaspora to invest. Everyone else is investing in Africa, the renewable energy space, the agriculture space, the energy space,
mhm,
housing infrastructure. Africa is a growing, bustling, economy, and I think that by bringing Africa back, I won't say bringing it back, but building it into what we all want it to be. I
mhm,
think that ESG can really be a part of that by doing it in a sustainable, conscious way. Um, we got lucky in Africa. We kind of skipped the industrial revolution in that the pollution and impact that all
mhm,
of that development had. So
mhm,
now we can, kind of go forward in more of a sustainable way and still reach our, targets of, development, but in a
mhm.
clean energy, clean environment. I think that long run.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. This was so refreshing. It's a new kind of type of a subject that we deal with, but it's also a good one because it offers alternatives and opportunities, because everyone is looking for the next kind of, where do we pivot next? And this is just at that wave of coming up. Thank you so much for the boldness, but more than anything, the love that you have for your space and for sharing it with as many women as possible. It was awesome meeting you, and I'm sure our listeners can follow you on LinkedIn to hear more about what you do. And you are there as Jacinda Washington Njike. And I don't know if are you on Twitter? Are you any other kind of
On Instagram, but I'm not really a. I
active?
leave that to my son, but yes, LinkedIn is perfect.
Awesome. Lovely chatting to you. And we will have a series of these. I'm sure there will be a lot of triggers. The climate issues, as I think we spoke about, that are starting to now become a reality, the Germanys and so on. How do we respond?
Yeah.
Where are the opportunities and so on? You see. Thank you
And
so
also,
much
just
for
so people know that I'm a lighthouse out here. If you're thinking about coming to Africa, if you're thinking about doing business in Africa, if you're thinking about getting education in Africa, I'm more than happy to, help you out in any way that I can.
absolutely. They've heard us. They will respond. They will reach out. And all the best in your journey.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Hamza, and thank you for being a phenomenal woman.
Thank you.